Welcome to the Turnpike Sports Spotlight. Dave Weishuttle with you. I'm excited to talk to our next guest because he is part of one of the most important jurisdictions for gaming in this country. What's more exciting is that he's the host of a new podcast and video series that is put out by this incredibly important jurisdiction. The name of the podcast is Behind the Bets in PA, and its host is the Director of Communications from the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board, Doug Harbach. And we are lucky to have Doug on the line to tell us all about the new podcast and all about the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. Doug, welcome to the show.
Dave, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to spend some time with you and with your listeners and talking about what's going on in Pennsylvania and really nationwide.
Yeah, absolutely. And first off, congratulations on the new podcast and video series. I think it's an amazing idea, especially in this confusing time in the gaming industry, that you're getting information out to the public about the gaming industry in Pennsylvania and really the rest of the country. And I think Pennsylvania is an extremely important state when it comes to casinos and sports betting and gaming in general. I mean, I'm sitting here in New Jersey, and the closest physical casino to me is in Pennsylvania. So it affects a lot of people in this country. So, but for people in the country who are listening, give us a snapshot of the Pennsylvania gaming industry. I mean, you're one of those jurisdictions that basically almost has everything regarding gaming under the sun.
Yeah, we really do, and it's interesting because it was I came here 20 years ago, and at that point we were still in the business of reviewing license applications to open up land-based casinos, and that was an interesting time, but also gaming was very controversial in Pennsylvania, so there was some pushback on it also. And, for example, one of our applicants happened to be a guy who later became president of the United States and is in that office now, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And he was an applicant. He was turned down by our board for a casino in Philadelphia. But we moved on land-based casinos, slots only. And later, in addition to the law, allowed table games to be placed inside those casinos. And from there, even those who had kind of pushed back in the legislature on legalized gaming started to come around and say, hey, this is making a lot of money, a lot of tax revenue for us, and it's being used in a good way. So as we got to 2017, another series of amendments to the Gaming Act, which, by the way, is called the Pennsylvania Racehorse Development and Gaming Act, which got its name because when this was first passed, in order to get rural legislators to agree to it, who would never really have a casino in their area because it doesn't have the population base, then that got the votes because it was also funding horse racing, which meant a lot of goods and services purchases within the agricultural community, within their districts, and also a lot of jobs. So we fast forward to 2017, and there was a major expansion. We got into online gambling. We got into sports wagering. There was also the addition of what's called video gaming terminal revenues at truck stops, which we can talk about. And then we also, for the first time, regulated fantasy games, which, and began to tax those. So we have a full menu of gaming opportunities in Pennsylvania that we regulate.
You know, here at the show, we always get emails about the gaming industry and how it works and what are the roles of regulators in the different states. Now, with Pennsylvania having such a diverse gaming industry, I mean, the regulators and the control board have so much to review and to investigate and to formulate rules and policy. Give us an idea of the role of the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board and how does it function in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
Yeah, we're an independent agency.
Okay.
And how we work is that we have a 7-member board. They are appointed by 3 of them by the governor and 4 by the caucuses of the legislature, the House and the Senate. They are not career jobs. They are term limited to no more than 6 years in the position. So over the many years, we've had probably 30 plus now different commissioners on our board, and they've run the gamut of backgrounds. Some of them were former legislators, some of them attorneys, some of them college presidents, and so we've had a really good. And even though they're appointed by diverse political parties, it's always been very cordial here, and that's to carry out what the main mission, and it's right in the law for us, is to protect the public. So for us, and using that line to guide us in everything we do, we first and foremost have to look at the citizens of Pennsylvania and the gaming public, and what do we do to properly enforce the law and properly then promulgate regulations that would be in their favor. Now, let's say also that we have to also understand that our job is to let the industry flourish, to create jobs, and to be able to create the tax revenue, which this last year now reached just short of $3 billion a year in tax revenue. And we do that in allowing the operators, whether it's casino operators, sports wagering operators, whomever it is, we try to be strict but fair in regards to our regulatory mandate in allowing this market to become what it was envisioned when the Gaming Act was passed.
Now, who came up with the idea of a podcast and video series, which is called Behind the Bets in PA? I think it's an incredible idea, and I think it's really going to open up a lot of people's eyes about how the gaming industry functions in Pennsylvania. And just to make an incredibly selfish statement, as a gaming lawyer, I love the fact that I can hear from people in the industry that are involved in making the rules and regulations. It's going to make my job a whole lot easier, Doug, so thanks a lot for that. But how did this idea evolve for a podcast and a video series?
Well, I probably came up with the idea, but it wasn't the first one. I actually have one of the things over the years that I've found to be very helpful to me, and then hopeful to other jurisdictions, is that we do trade ideas with other states that oversee gambling. I was at a conference in Sarasota last week, and I have a call that with another jurisdiction next week who was there, who heard some of the things we're doing and would like to talk about it. And I'm like, great, I'm happy to pay it forward, because I got the same help from jurisdictions like New Jersey, for example, when we first got into this. So Michigan actually had a podcast that they've been doing for a while, and I've listened to it and got an idea that we ought to do it too. Mine's a little bit different, and I'm going to not only utilize our staff and talk about how we regulate things, what we do here. Even one of my last ones was about problem gambling from a member of our staff, but also I'm going to be looking outside into the industry, maybe into the legislature, and have guests from the outside come in also, so I can get really a 360 look at the gaming industry in Pennsylvania. And since you're being so kind, Dave, my guess is you're going to be a great guest in the future.
I didn't know I was going to get roped into that, but I enjoy it. I loved the last one you did. Liz Lanza is excellent, and that was one of my questions. I mean, I interview lawmakers from other states, and I always ask them one question. I mean, do you look at other states and see what they do and see what works and doesn't work? And without fail, every lawmaker from every other state say, absolutely, we see what other states do and how to deal with gaming issues and gaming in their states. And I have a feeling you're going to get a lot of traffic from other states for your podcast, and it's going to be great. And that was the one issue I always talk to them about. If you talk with other people from other states, and the one issue I always had a question was online casinos. Lawmakers see they make a lot of money in the states and that have them, but they're not willing to jump into online casinos like they did for sports betting. Do you think this open line of communication that you have now with other states and with the podcast you're doing, do you think the information that will get out, like issues like online casinos, do you think that will help start the conversation in other states that are unwilling to go into online casinos? Because it doesn't make sense to me. If they listen to other states, they know it's doing great, it's making money, but they're not jumping onto it.
Yeah, I think one of the buzzwords I've used since when I got here is, and I know it's overused, but it's transparency. And the truth of the matter is we're happy to tell not just the gaming public, but also other jurisdictions, what are we doing here? Mm-hmm. What's being successful? What's not being successful for us? And we will share that not only in the podcast, but we share that personally. We have meetings all the time with other jurisdictions. I can even look back a couple of years ago, and if you're familiar, Japan's been trying to look at getting into gaming, and they have some plans for casinos. They're still on the kind of the drawing board, but they have a commission there to do it. They visited Pennsylvania and sat down with all of us to talk about what we did in getting a market up and running, and one of the things that worked really well. So we share that with them. We share them at conferences and ideas that, and some of them are the conferences for regulators. Some of them we also participate in what's called NICLGs, which is the National Association of Gaming States, that also be able to share within elected officials in various states about what is going on in Pennsylvania and what might work for them, and vice versa, where things have been carried in here then by our legislature to improve things. So I think the more that some states look at our state, at Michigan, at New Jersey, and the other 5 states that have online gambling, they will probably see that we have been able to solve some of the sticky problems that they may still be worried about. And some of that is, and we talked about it in that podcast that you mentioned with our Director of Compulsive and Problem Gambling, Liz Lanza, and that is, stopping individuals who should not be online gambling from getting on. That means underagers. That means people with a gambling problem. It's one of the things that why we've weighed in heavily on some of these other unregulated markets that are out there, be it the sweepstakes, or be it offshore sports wagering sites, or the prediction markets. They don't have anything in line really to stop underagers from getting onto the sites, and I think that's one of the issues that probably has other states a little worried in getting into this.
I said before, I think this is the best time to launch a podcast and video series like the one you have developed for the Gaming Control Board. I mean, there are issues right now that people are so confused about when it comes to the gaming industry in the country. I mean, working in this industry, I don't think a day passes without someone asking me, or I'm hearing conversation about prediction markets. I just heard commercials for them on New York radio this morning. So it seems like this is the issue that it's on everyone's mind right now, and it's just overwhelming how many people are confused about this. I mean, when it comes to prediction market, what is the stance of the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board?
Well, first, we believe that it's gambling, and under our statute, that if it is gambling, then it needs to be regulated by the state. And it's very clear in the comments that we've posted with the federal government and their oversight, is that they are not doing an adequate job of that, and they really should cede to the experts who know how to do gambling regulation, and also be able to put things in place to stop not only underage gambling, or those people that shouldn't be on the sites that have a gambling problem, but also all of the fraud that's going on these online sites, and also, obviously the insider trading that's been happening with these sites. So we have weighed in with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission a couple times with comments. And right now, while there are several arguments, our biggest one on this is not just that it needs to be regulated by us and needs to be taxed, but that there is nothing involved in allowing underagers, and I'm talking not just under 21, I'm talking down to 13, 14, 15-year-olds that are getting onto these sites rather easily in being able to, wager on not only sporting events but also a lot of other events, and that is disconcerting to us. It should be disconcerting to everybody. However, the current administration seems to want to go forward with these prediction markets right now, and because again, it's the golden goose right now for some of these private companies.
I have to tell you, I have no problem admitting that I have no idea how this issue of prediction markets will be handled in the future. I don't know if it's going to be handled through the federal government, what role the states will have when it comes to prediction markets. I just don't know, and I'm not sure how it's going to shake out. That's why I think Behind the Bets in PA is such a great idea. I mean, I'm certainly going to be listening for that issue because, again, as someone who works in the industry, I just don't know where this is going. How do you feel this is going to shake out in Pennsylvania? Do you think we're going to get some clarity in the next couple of months, next year, or whatever? And I got to tell you, for whatever happens, it adds a sense of drama to your podcast because I'm going to be listening to this.
Well, it's funny you say that because the next one planned that I'm going to record here soon and then drop in 2 weeks will be with our chief counsel, Steve Cook.
Nice.
And he's been immersed in the issue of the prediction markets, and we're going to talk about that on our next podcast. So you'll get some more information on that. But to your answer, Dan, how this is going to shake out, hard to say. I mean, my guess is it's all going to come down at some point to the courts, and probably elevating all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court with one of these cases. And then it's we'll have to see how they rule at this point with the current with the court under the current administration. It's hard to say. So, but again, if the federal government is going to regulate these things and they get a ruling that makes them legal, then they're going to have to work a bit with the states under what their laws say. Because here's the thing with the prediction markets, they've said a lot that they're not gambling, but then in their public ads, in things that they say, they use the word gambling.
Yeah.
And so is it gambling or not gambling? And if it's gambling, we have a very, very strong case in Pennsylvania, and other states have it too. And they've been going to court for this to say that we regulate it. We have the right to regulate gambling within our states, not the federal government. And that's what we'll be fighting. But it could be a long fight. And we can talk about another issue, which is skill games here in our state too. And this is kind of similar to that the longer that this goes on without any clear answer to it, the more entrenched these large firms get. And then it becomes much, much harder to move them out or to start regulating the way they should be.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I know they use the word gambling in some trademark applications too. So they're not really helping their cause. And I got, that's what makes the Pennsylvania gaming industry so unique and so fascinating. And I'm looking forward to all your interviews. And I can give you an example. I told you this off air. I was talking to people here about the interview, and they said, "Oh yeah, I'm talking to Doug from the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board," and they said, "Can you ask him to explain what video gaming terminals at truck stops?" See, this is what my life has become. I'm taking requests now. So, but I thought it was a great question. That's what makes Pennsylvania gaming so unique. These very interesting facets of the industry. So for the people here, what are video gaming terminals at truck stops? And by the way, if I ever do an interview on video gaming terminals, I'm copying your questions from your podcast. So I'm telling you right now, I'm ripping you off blind. If you
happy to do it, happy to do it. It's not like
just warning you in advance.
I stole the podcast idea. So there you go. we all like to claim original ideas, but in the end, very few are.
Absolutely.
Video gaming terminals, or as we call them, VGTs, they were another carve out in the 2017 expansion law, and basically they're slot machines. You see, they're slightly different, but really for all intent purposes, they're slot machines. And there was a very narrow parameter on where they could go, and that is that they had to go in truck stops with a convenience store in PA that had at least 3 acres of land, that had X amount of parking spaces for tractor trailers, that also sold at least 50,000 gallons on the average per month of diesel fuel. And then they would qualify.
Wow.
So after we went through all that, we have right now about 75 locations in Pennsylvania at truck stops. Now, this will never be a big market unless those parameters would be changed a bit to expand where they could go, because they can only have 5 machines there. But the five, and that means that, you can start to do your math. You've got less statewide than we have in a single casino. So one of the things that is in the law for these VGTs is that it carries a lot of the similarities to what happens in casinos. These have to be in a dedicated room with its own door going into this room. It has to have problem gambling information in it. There are cameras in there that are monitoring the room and recording what goes on in the room. And individuals that work there have to have some training, also including on problem gambling. All those things have to be in place. Again, we'll allude to this in a minute, I'm sure, but we have this pretty immense market here of unregulated skill games, which are also like slot machines, and they have none of those in place. They don't have anything that is warning people of problem gambling or where to get help. There are no cameras. They're not, as our slot machines are, the VGTs are also connected with what we call the central control computer system through the Department of Revenue. So we know every penny that goes in, every penny that's paid out, how much tax is due on a daily basis from these machines.
So do you see any changes in the skill-based gaming area in Pennsylvania? Do you see new rules and regulations coming down for that?
Eventually, but if you had done this interview with me 5 years ago, I'd say the same thing. Eventually, so there have been many, and there are right now many iterations of bills on how to regulate skill games. And just as a background, skill games these games had gotten a court ruling years ago from a local county court, and it said that they were not a slot machine. They were not a game of chance, but instead, because there is some of the options on the machine for you to do things such as stop the reel physically, that made it a skill game. So without court rulings that have defined these yet, they have populated like rabbits all through the state. We think that, and the problem is we don't know this number for sure. We don't know where all the locations are, but we think there's 100,000 or more of these machines out there, and they are just about everywhere. And whether they're in your VFWs and Legions and other clubs, whether they're in bodegas in the city, whether they are in supermarkets, or what's really been difficult for us is to see all these locations pop up as quote unquote mini casinos, where they're in a strip mall and they've got 25, 30, 50 machines in a place, where people are going in to play. There's nothing that regulates those as far as who can play them, what age can play them. I had a video that was given to me by a friend who was at a restaurant, and his 9 and 10-year-olds went up to the machine, and one of the people in the restaurant came up and said, "I can show you how to play this." And so those things are not in place. They're not monitored by any cameras. And also because there's no regulation over them, they're not taxed. So the Commonwealth is getting, nothing from them for all the money that's going into, and some estimates. We kind of did some estimates for a hearing a couple years ago, and we think there was maybe up to $1.6 billion being placed into these machines every year. So it's something that is now before the Pennsylvania Supreme Court for a ruling. What's happened here in PA is you've had kind of the legislature waiting for the court to rule and the court waiting for the legislature to do something. And in the end, so far, nothing's been done. And one of the big issues on it, just not just the regulation of it, and most think it should come under the Gaming Control Board for regulatory oversight, but it's the taxing rate. Slot machines here in Pennsylvania are taxed at 52%. In the people that run these machines for skill believe that it should be a much lower rate, somewhere around 16%, which of course, as you can guess, the operators for the casinos say, well, that's unfair. Why are we operating at such a high tax rate and these similar machines would not be doing so? So that's another area where they have not been able to get together on what should be taxed on these machines. The governor had it in his budget and was looking at, upwards about $300 million a year that could be gained in tax revenue if they were taxed at an adequate rate.
See, that's what makes Pennsylvania so fascinating. You have issues that no other state has. That's what makes it so fascinating to watch what's happening in Pennsylvania. And also when it comes to gaming industry, Pennsylvania does a lot of great things, and one of the great things they do is embrace the idea of responsible gaming. I mean, when it comes to responsible gaming, what is so important is that people who think they may have an issue with gambling are provided with information on the programs and tools that are available in the Commonwealth. I mean, this is another reason why I think Behind the Bets in PA is such a great idea. Providing information to people is a huge component of responsible gambling. And I know you just had Liz Lanza on, who is the director of the Office of Compulsive and Problem Gambling at the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. Tell us about the responsible gaming programs in Pennsylvania, and will you do more podcasts on the responsible gaming aspect of the industry? Because Liz Lanza was a great guest. She's fantastic.
Yeah. You're not going to hear the end of that issue. And by the way, when you use the word fascinating, that's fascinating to you guys looking into Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I don't always use that word when it comes to these skill games and these unregulated games. And I'm not going to repeat the word that I did.
I know, right? That, but, we are on radio, but
that's right. So when we look back and our the main thing that we do as a regulating body is to protect the public. That means that we do not and never have turned a blind eye to problem gambling. And while we attacked that issue immediately when we first opened casinos, and we established an Office of Compulsive and Problem Gambling here, we have now looked at it and said, listen, if you're going to place, and again, we don't make the laws, we carry them out, but the legislature and the governor decided that we want to expand gaming. So when you're going to start making gambling as easy to access as it is in Pennsylvania, well, by having it literally, I joke all the time when I'm out speaking, and I say, online gaming's allowed, online sports wagering. For an example, if I'm at a Lions club and I'm speaking and I say you could have a guy speaking on gambling in PA, it could be really boring, and you could just pull out your phone and you could start gambling to do something else. It's that easy now. So when you're making it that accessible, we have to take an even stronger look at what are the mitigation issues that we have to put in place to help people. One of the things that we have done for years and years and years is a self-exclusion list. We've had around 30,000 people sign up in Pennsylvania to ban themselves from casinos. And if you're not familiar with it, that program, when they sign that document, have their picture taken, which is then networked. It's not public, but those pictures are networked to all the casinos so they can help identify people. They attest to that in that time to choosing either a 1-year, 5-year, or lifetime ban, that they can be arrested for trespassing and fined, and they can have their winnings taken. There was just a story out of Philadelphia where someone was on the self-exclusion list, was at a casino there, and I think was caught after they won a jackpot of like $69,000. That money is not theirs. It should not be theirs. It will be then confiscated. It'll come to us to put into our problem gambling fund. So because that program has been very, very successful for us, and it's not a solution for people. Some still may need to go seek counseling and become part of a Gamblers Anonymous group. But it's been successful in the casino level, and we've now interfaced that into the other forms of gambling that have been approved here. So you can go online and you can block yourselves from accessing any online site. You can also stop yourselves and ban yourselves from entering one of these truck stop convenience stores for VGTs, and you can block yourself from getting onto fantasy games that are regulated in PA. So we're trying our best. You got to lead a horse to water. They have to drink in the end, but we're trying to put this tool in place to assist them.
Now, you have a couple of podcasts and videos already released. Your first interview was with the executive director of the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board, Kevin O'Toole. He was actually on the show. He's a really great guy. Mm-hmm. Also, you did an interview with the director of sports wagering operations, Kevin Kyle. And as we talked about, your latest episode, you broke the streak of guests named Kevin when you had Liz Lanza on. I thought I wanted to see how long you'd go with that streak, but Liz came out and broke it. Who else can we expect to see on Behind the Bets in PA? Is more staff members? I know you have one coming up you just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, we have our chief counsel coming on. We're going to talk about some of these unregulated gambling that are going on around Pennsylvania and around the nation. We're also, I have other staff that can really dig in deep into online gambling. We have a director of operations for that area. We have a director of operations for the casino. I have individuals who, if you don't know, in our casinos, we have what are called casino compliance representatives. So we've always had what we call boots on the ground, full-time people in all the casinos to help carry out the regulations and the law. And they have some fascinating stories about how they carry that out. And so those are just internal things. But I want the podcast to also reach out, maybe, to talk to general managers at casinos or those who are involved in the operations on the operator side of online gambling and sports wagering. I want to talk to elected officials who are involved in regulating. I want to talk to individuals that might be in national organizations for gaming standards, or those who are also involved in consulting to some operators out around the country, and some of the things they're seeing elsewhere that we could also share with people on our podcast, and certainly within Pennsylvania. So my goal is to make this pretty broad and not just about this agency, though this is an important step for me beyond the old-timey press releases and the website. Now I've gotten much more heavily into social media. Candidly, I had to hire somebody for that because old guy like me didn't have kind of the background to do that well. But I have a super person doing a lot of social media now to get our information out. And then this was another step to make sure that we're helping the gaming public know why we're on their side. I think most of them, get upset, and certainly you'll see things posted. I like to call them trolls on social media, who like to put up non-truths onto our sites and say that we're in cahoots somehow with the gaming industry. That's just not the case. That's not our role. We want to be fair with the gaming industry, but we also need to be strict to make sure things are being followed. And I think behind the scenes, most people don't know that there are a lot of things that are proposed to us, certain things, proposals for things to wager upon in sports, or certain games or complementary items that are proposed for gaming online, or advertisements so that they run by us first. We don't approve all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Some of the stuff is pushed back and say, no, go back to the drawing board or fix this before we allow you to do it.
So what are some of the issues that you think the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board will have to contend with in the near future? And what are some of the issues you want to talk about on your new podcast, Behind the Bets in PA?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we obviously, as we talked about, are some of these unregulated markets. That's a huge thing right now. And certainly the skill game issue, we'd like to get something done with that. We'd like to regulate it. And, that probably will mean some additional staff here, because you may be talking about tens of thousands of machines scattered all over the state. So that in itself is a little different than regulating slot machines at 18 locations around Pennsylvania. But, there are other things that we need to do. We need to stay ahead of. One issue that came to that's of issue, and you could make a whole show out of this, is AI. Right now, AI is becoming more and more prevalent in all of our lives, but also in gaming. I mean, we need to know, when someone is creating a game, is there something within there that is AI generated that we would want to know about that might be driving this game? We need to know from the other side, from those that are gaming, when someone games, can they be using AI somehow to assist them in playing the games and beating the odds? These are things that are all, I know, new to everybody, and there are some particular things in gaming that we need to continue to look at and become knowledgeable of. And that's one of the reasons why our staff does share things with other jurisdictions and has open dialogue with all of the operators about what's going on, so that there are no surprises. But the AI thing probably will be something you'll read more and more about that's driving some gaming.
Doug, we're running out of time, but how can people listen to Behind the Bets in PA? And if they're interested in the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board, do you have a website you can give out so people can check it out?
We do. Our website is gamingcontrolboard.pa.gov. We also have, just as we talked about problem gambling, we have a separate site for that, which is called responsibleplay.pa.gov. Then, as far as the podcast, we have landed that on whatever platform you usually go to, whether it's Apple or Spotify. You should be able to find it by simply putting in Behind the Bets in PA. And then we are also producing that as video content, so that you can see, seeing me isn't that big a deal, but seeing some of these other people.
I've been watching on YouTube. Nice. So.
This is a perfect show for me, by the way. I have a radio voice and a television face.
It's great. So,
that's right.
I hate video. I hate the video right in front of me. That I hate the lights in front of me too. That's annoying as hell.
I know it's something to as we get older, we're like, I starting to look old. So anyway, if you go on YouTube, we have you type that in, you'll be able to find that. It resides on our Gaming Control Board YouTube page, and those episodes are available. And one of the things I've been trying to do is, I'm trying to keep these things to in the 20 to 25 minute range. I think one of the last thing, and I'm an avid podcast listener, is that some of these podcasts go on and on and on. And my son loves Joe Rogan for some reason, but Joe Rogan has these 2 and 3 hour podcasts, and I'm thinking, how do you have the time to do that?
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to keep them down to a modicum of time, so that you can hear a particular issue and learn about it without and being able to fit it into your busy schedules.
Doug Harbach, Director of Communications at the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board and host of the new podcast and YouTube video series, Behind the Bets in PA. Thanks so much for coming on and talking about the podcast and the Gaming Control Board. I got to tell you, the new podcast is an excellent idea because it gives information that people can't get anywhere else, because it comes directly from the people who make the rules and regulations. I think it's great. Please come back on and keep us updated about Behind the Bets in PA and also the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Dave. I really appreciate being on here, and thanks for continuing to do your work with Doug and being able to get this information out to the gaming public.
Thank you so much. That'll do it for us this week. We'll see you next time on the Turnpike.